welcome to my YouTube channel. So glad that you guys are here. Today we're going to be talking about all of the first trimester things, even what I did to prepare my body for pregnancy, when I found out that I was pregnant, and when Hampton found out that I was pregnant, and then all of the craziness of first trimester, the symptoms and OB appointments and all of the things in between. So thanks for tuning along. I'm going to try and be as honest as possible, because when I was newly pregnant, I was like dying to have someone tell me everything that happened in first trimester, just so I could prepare my body as much as possible. And even kind of before I got pregnant, I was always just so curious about like what the ins and outs of pregnancy were, and it's so different for each person. But I'll kind of just give a little insight on my first trimester, so hopefully someone can either relate to it or kind of prepare themselves for something that might go along in their pregnancy, or just hear a different perspective. So just to dive right into it, my journey really started in the beginning of 2023. So I had an IUD for about 5 years, and I loved it. It was perfect for that time of my life. I didn't have to worry about anything. It was just like such a lifesaver for that time of the month, and I love to run, and I just don't really want to have to worry about that, and I didn't, and it was amazing. Loved it. But then 2023, kind of after I was married, I decided to take it out just because I kind of wanted to get to know my body a little bit more. I was kind of getting more into like that holistic health side of things, and really wanting to tune in with my body. And as a woman, really to kind of tune into your body is to really know your cycle and the phases of your cycle. And so for those of you that don't know, because I certainly didn't know for a really long time, because they did not teach me this, the phases of your cycle is your follicular phase, your ovulation stage, your luteal stage, and then your menstrual stage. So you have 4 stages, and everyone goes through them in one-ish month period. It can be like 28 days, it can be like 32 days, it really depends on each person. But knowing what's specific for your body is like super important to kind of get to know yourself a little bit more, and the things that you'll need throughout each month. And so you can get like super deep dive into it, and maybe I will in a different video. But anyways, kind of getting to know all those 4 cycles led me to kind of realize different things about getting pregnant. So like things I did not know is that you can only get pregnant during your ovulation stage. For some reason, I thought that you could kind of get pregnant anytime, and maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I just didn't know and wasn't educated. But if I didn't know that, maybe someone else out there didn't know that either. But you can only get pregnant during your ovulation stage, which is only a few days of your cycle. So and you normally feel like you're most sexual during that time, like you're best during that time, you have the most energy, all the things. It's like the peak of your cycle. So I found that out, and then I also found out about what's called the 2-week wait, which basically means if you get pregnant during your ovulation cycle, you have to wait 2 weeks before you can test, just because the rises of your hormones, they won't show on a pregnancy test until about 2 weeks, which is why typically people wait to have a missed period, because that is like the 2-week wait, is you ovulate and then around 2 weeks later you should be having your period. And if you don't, take a pregnancy test. But I learned those terms and like that stuff about my body, which I just find so interesting, because I had no idea. So I learned that kind of leading up to 2023 and throughout 2023. And then I also learned like what foods were gonna help me to prepare my body like during each phase of the cycle. And just like really focusing and dialing in on all of my workouts and things like that. And so kind of like mind shift wise of why we started to think about getting pregnant was when we were just newlyweds. We were living in Denver, Colorado, and loved it for being a newlywed. It was like so perfect. We were like right next to the mountains to go hiking and skiing and do all the fun things with our puppy, and you know, really enjoy ourselves and go to different breweries and different food spots around town. But I think our mind shift started to change because we knew that we weren't probably going to have kids in Denver, although we loved it. It was just really not aligning with us and what we were looking for. So we ended up moving to Houston, Texas, and we kind of had that switch around July, and we officially moved in August. So around that time is kind of when we started to stop avoiding the ovulation stage and really kind of start like dialing in on the ovulation stage. And so that's kind of when our mind shift changes to like, oh, okay, we can think about having kids now. Like, we're moving to a different place that we both really love, and you know, that just aligns with us a little bit more. So that's kind of our mind shift change. And then kind of waiting to get pregnant. I don't know why I also thought that I was just gonna get pregnant off of my first month. But I like knew my body so well. Like, I knew my ovulation stage. I was also using what's called the Flow app, which will kind of tell you before you're pregnant. It'll tell you like all of the different cycles and when you're ovulating, in case you like want to avoid that stage, or you want to really hit that stage. Like, it'll tell you both depending on what your goals are. So I also had that going for me. I will say with that app, sometimes it is wrong. So, you know, if you want to track your ovulation by like doing the dipsticks, that's great, or the app is great, or if you know your body really well, you can do that, or temperature changes are great too. All of those are great for tracking your ovulation, but I just kind of knew my signs and symptoms of my body, and then I also had the app, and so that's kind of what I did. And so I was like, okay, well, like, if we're trying, I'm gonna get pregnant. I'm gonna get pregnant right away. And I had heard so many people get pregnant right away. Like, my some people in my family has gotten pregnant with like barely even trying, like just kind of were like, oh, maybe. And then I had a lot of friends that got pregnant right away, and so I just had it in my mind, and that did not happen for us. So if it doesn't happen for you, you just know that it's okay. You know, it will happen in the right time. And so for us, it took about 3-ish months, which was, you know, tough at first, just because again, I thought it was the first month, but luckily for us, it didn't take like a year or 2 years or anything like that. So we're really blessed in that way. But it took about 3-ish months, and the way I found out was kind of a funny story. So I took a pregnancy test on a Friday before my 2-week wait was up. So my little Flow app was telling me that I was supposed to test on this specific Wednesday, and I tested the Friday before. And you know, I was for sure thinking it was going to be negative at this point. Like, we'd been trying for a couple months. I know what a negative test looks like. It was also kind of in the middle of the day. And for those of you that don't know, you're really supposed to take a pregnancy test at the very beginning of the day, like your first pee, just because that's kind of when it's most concentrated and it'll be most accurate. Something else I didn't know. So learning all of the things, but yeah, it was the middle of the day, and I had drinking a bunch of water, and I was about to go for a run, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna test. 0 symptoms before. I had no symptoms. I'm not sick. I was not tired. I wasn't craving anything. I just was like, I'm gonna test. And so I did. I tested, and it was like the most faintest of lines ever. And I knew that if I would have showed Hampton this line, he would have been like, I don't know, let's test again. So it wouldn't have been like that, oh my gosh, like, you're pregnant. So I knew I wanted to wait, but I knew it was pregnant. I was pregnant, just kind of by the really, really faint line. So then on Saturday, so I knew on Friday, but on Saturday, I didn't have like any other tests. So I had to go to the grocery store to grab a test. And then while I was out, I also was trying to look for any kind of dad thing to surprise Hampton with being like, hey, we're pregnant. And this is a PSA to all my girlies out there. There is like nothing out there that you can get that says dad, unless you want to like order on Amazon. And my husband looks on all of our Amazon accounts and knows when things are being delivered and stuff like that. Like, he gets the emails. So I knew I couldn't do anything on Amazon, and I really had to go look for things in the store. Just so he would say like, oh, she bought something at Target or, you know, whatever. But there was literally nothing. I went to probably like 5 or 6 different stores, nothing except for like a dad joke book. And I was like, I could use that, but I don't really want to use that. So just prepare before. Just if you see anything with dad, even if you're not trying, but you know, you might be trying soon, just pick it up. Just do yourself a favor, pick it up. I totally wish I would have done that, but I just had no idea that there was literally going to be no dad stuff. There was plenty of mom stuff, just no dad stuff. So anyways, Saturday I went to go pick up the pregnancy test. I failed with looking for anything for Hampton, and I came home and I had 2 pregnancy tests. I got an early pregnancy test that you can read, like, I think it's 5 days before your menstrual period. And then I also got a digital one. And so I got back and it was the middle of the day again. And so I didn't want to take the digital one because I wanted to wait for the first pee of the day. So I knew I was going to say that was just for Sunday morning, but I wanted to take this early test one. So I took that, and it was again a super, super faint line, but again, I knew. So I knew basically all of Friday, all of Saturday, but I was like really waiting for that digital one to say yes or no, just for my peace of mind before I told Hampton. So Sunday rolls around and I told Hampton, you know, sleep in, not a big deal. But then Sunday morning comes around and I wake up at 5:30 and need to go to the bathroom. And so I'm like, shoot, I have to take my pregnancy test like this morning. It's 5:30. And so I take it, and this is the one that'll say not pregnant, and I recommend that one just because it's so straightforward. You can't mess it up. So I take it and it says pregnant, and it's like 5:45 at this point. I told him that he could sleep in, not a big deal. But I'm like, shoot, I need to tell him. Like, I need to tell him now. Like, I can't wait any longer. But I try and let him sleep in for as long as possible. So I go to our kitchen and I make little pancakes that spell out dad, which was atrocious. I don't have the best pancake art skills ever, but I just needed something at that point to just tell him. So I did that, and I like put the little pregnancy test out, and then it's about like 6:30, almost 7 o'clock, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go wake him up. And so it's so funny that because I took a video of like announcing to him that we were pregnant, and the video is like literally like 12 minutes long because I am in our room like trying to convince this man to get up to come eat breakfast with his wife in the morning, and he's like, it's literally 6:45, like I'm not getting up, I'm so tired. And I'm like, please get up, you know, like we'll have breakfast together. And he's like, ugh. And so he finally gets up, then he sees why I woke him up so early, and he's like so ecstatic from that point forward. And we were just like, wow, you know, it's such a crazy thing when you guys first find out, because for us, we were the only 2 that knew, just because we wanted to wait for our first doctor's appointment before we told anyone. So it's like a really crazy thing when you find out and it's just you and your husband that are the ones that know. So it's just like this really crazy thing, and it almost doesn't feel real, especially because at that point I wasn't really having any symptoms. You know, I was feeling pretty much fine. Like, I guess I couldn't really drink coffee that early. Like, it just wasn't really agreeing with my stomach. But you know, I was feeling fine. So I found out around 6 weeks, and then I ended up calling the OB around like 6.5, 7 weeks. And so another thing that I didn't know is when you find out that you're pregnant, go ahead, try and find an OB like basically right away, OB or midwife. I was kind of going in between the 2. We ended up going with an OB just because of a recommendation that we had from another person. But you know, I think both are great. But when you call your OB, first off, like, they can deny you technically, like they don't have to take you. And then second off, if they do take you, they have to wait until like 9 or 10 weeks before you get your first OB appointment, your first ultrasound, like confirmation of pregnancy. So that's like the 2-week wait, but way worse, because now you're like, shoot, I know I'm pregnant. I think I'm pregnant. It says I'm pregnant on all of the pregnancy tests I've taken, but I don't have an ultrasound. So, you know, it's just such like a weird thing. But then you get like all of your first symptoms, and then you're like, okay, no, there's a little bean in there, and they're growing. But yeah, so I called my OB, she accepted me, and we scheduled our first appointment. It was around like 9 weeks when we first scheduled it, and all was good until about like 7.5, 8 weeks, kind of when my first set of symptoms really came around during pregnancy. And the first two, and kind of really the overarching ones that were the ones that really just clouded over my whole first trimester, was that I was so extremely exhausted, like literally all the time, like an exhaustion that I can't even explain. And then also that I was like incredibly sick and super nauseous. So to kind of touch on the exhaustion, so I also work full time along with you know, doing everything else. So I would literally go into work around like 7:30 and I would work, and it would take literally the life out of me. And then I would come home, and I would be home around 3:30, which is like beautiful for being home that early. Like, it was so nice. So I would come home around 3:30, and then I would literally probably sleep until like 7 o'clock. Like I would sleep until 7 o'clock, and then I would wake up and, you know, try and have dinner, probably not have dinner, but, you know, wake up and then go to bed around like 8:30, 9. Like, I was sleeping the majority of the day. Like, I was awake when I had to be awake at work, but otherwise, other than that, like, it took everything out of me. And that was so hard for me, because I really wanted to work out during my full pregnancy, and I really wanted to stay super active, and I just really wanted to like be my healthiest, just because I really want to be my healthiest for my baby. But I just had to let my body take over at some point, because it was truly a tough time. Like, I was so lucky if I got in a couple of walks that week. Like, I was so lucky. And then I have a few weights in my apartment as well that I use, so I would squeeze in like a 10-minute workout like here and there, just like in my pajamas, really quick, just trying to get some kind of movement in to kind of keep my body moving, so I wasn't as out of shape when I got some energy back. So those were kind of the things that I did in between, but really I had to just surrender to my body being exhausted, and just know that like I'll get back to what I need to do for my body in pregnancy, like when I'm feeling better. Like, I just couldn't at that point, because I was so exhausted. And then the flip side of things was, I was exhausted, but I was also super sick. And I am hesitant to say the term morning sickness, because it is not morning sickness, and any of the girlies that are sick know that is not morning sickness. It's all day sickness. Like, and for me, it was like all day sickness, all day everything smells bad, all day food aversions, all day everything relating to food, and like even thinking about food makes me nauseous. Like, I could not eat. So I had like basically no pregnancy cravings, but I had everything in the kitchen sink basically as a food aversion. Like, we literally put our Brita out on the kitchen counter, just because I couldn't open the fridge. Like, the fridge has a fridge smell, and I didn't know that pre-pregnancy, but the fridge has a fridge smell, and so I had to put the Brita on the counter, just because I couldn't stand opening the fridge. It was disgusting, and I especially couldn't cook. Couldn't do any of the grocery shopping. There was even a point where I tried to go grocery shopping, and I threw up in the parking lot, because I just like, the grocery store has smells, like everything has smells. So I tried my best to keep my nutrition where I could, but I also just had to survive at some point. And so, you know, I would have like 2 or 3 popsicles for breakfast, and then I would come home and, you know, depending on the day, because I liked foods for like maybe 24 hours and then I would immediately hate it the next day. So like some days I would like tortilla chips, and the next day I would like not want to see a tortilla chip at all in our apartment. So I really just tried to get what I could in, and you know, I tried to fit nutrition in where I could, but I also just again had to surrender to my body and be like, I think I'm just in survival mode right now. And I just have to make it through these first 13 weeks, which for me it was much longer than 13 weeks, unfortunately. But I just have to make it through. And so those were like the 2 biggest symptoms that I had, and those were throughout all of pregnancy. And so kind of going back, so 8 weeks is kind of when all of that first started happening. And then around 9 weeks, I had my first OB appointment. And in my first OB appointment, they did what's called a transvaginal ultrasound, just because they deemed it to be too early to do just like your abdominal ultrasound. So basically what a transvaginal ultrasound is when they have this little wand, and they put like half of the wand, like, you know, through your vagina, and they see the baby that way, and confirm baby's heartbeat and everything like that. For me, it did not hurt whatsoever. I didn't have any bleeding or anything after that. It was totally fine, not a big deal. But then we saw baby's heartbeat, which was so exciting and just so much fun. So we did that, and then we met our OB for the first time. And just something, again, that I wish I would have known is that when you meet your OB for the first time, that is like total interview time. Like that is time to see if your OB aligns with your values, you know, if what your values align with like what their practice is, you know, really getting to know them. If it's important to you that they have kids too, you know, like ask about that. Whatever's important to you, ask them during that first appointment, because what I didn't know first off was that it's not a big deal if you switch OBs or switch midwives. Like it's not that big of a deal at all. You have actually a long time, and so it's really not that big of a deal if you switch and bounce between different doctors. Because at the end of the day, if it's really not working for you, then you know you're not going to be happy throughout your whole pregnancy. Every time you go to the doctor's office, like you're just always going to be stressed out because you don't like your doctor. So luckily for us, we really liked our OB. We had a really good recommendation, so we're really happy with who we got. But you know, take that and like run with it. If you don't like your OB, please find a different one. Like don't start paying that practice. Just find a different one and start paying whoever you like. Just something I didn't know. So we met our OB, and then our first appointment was done, and so that's when we told, you know, our family members and our parents and things like that. And you know, that's such a fun time just because especially like no one was really expecting it for us. My brother and his wife like just had a baby like literally days before we told my family, so everyone was so excited, you know, another baby on the way. So we were all super excited about that. And then yeah, so that was our first OB appointment. And then we have in your first trimester and throughout your second trimester, actually, you have an OB appointment every 4 weeks, which feels like a lifetime, because especially during your first trimester, you just are like, are you okay in there? Like, are you doing okay? You have no idea. So anyways, I was going about my merry way, and you know, I just knew that if I was sick, baby was probably still in there. And so that was really my only confirmation, which was not great for me, but you know, at least I knew that baby was in there. And so going about my merry way. And then our second OB appointment happened, which is super fun because we did another ultrasound to, you know, see if baby was growing. Baby was growing great. And then we also did a blood test at that time. So you can do 2 blood tests during your second OB appointment, or at least it was our second OB appointment, which we could do it. One of them is a genetic screening, and that's where you can find out the gender of baby, and like genetic screenings for Down syndrome and, you know, trisomies 18. I can't even think of all of them right now, but that's where you can find out all of them. And then you can also do a genetic screening on yourself so that you can kind of see like the possibilities that your baby might have something. And if you're positive for something, or like you have the trait for something, they might also test your husband or whoever you made your baby with, to kind of see if they're positive too. Because if they are too, then, you know, the chances of your baby having it are pretty high. We just decided to do the blood test just to find out baby's genetics, mainly because we were just so excited about finding out the gender. We were just over the moon about it. But we also, you know, we just wanted to prepare ourselves, you know, as much as possible. So we did that during our second OB appointment. And then kind of like in between that, we had what I thought was a scare, but really wasn't a scare. But it was like, I had gone to the bathroom and I had saw like 2 little drops of blood on my underwear. And I was like totally freaking out at that point, you guys. Like I was totally freaking out. And so I called our OB office, and they were like, okay, well, like, you know, they asked all the questions, like, has it been more blood? Like, was it just 2 drops? Like, what were you doing before? Things like that. And so also what I did not know, there's so many things I just had no idea about. What I did not know is during your first trimester, that is so common to have like just 2 little drops, or, you know, just like a little tiny bit of like blood come out. I don't know why they explained it to me. I can't remember. I was just too like, like everything's fine. But if that happens to you, definitely call your OB or midwife or whoever you're seeing, but also know it's probably normal. Like if you're not bleeding like an abnormal amount, or like if you were to have a period like a lot, it's probably fine. And it was totally fine. Baby was totally fine. But that kind of happened around that same time as the second OB appointment. So that was not really only scare we had. But you know, that did happen. So then after we took the blood test, it was around Thanksgiving time. So we went to my parents' place in Omaha, Nebraska to celebrate Thanksgiving. Did I say Thanksgiving or Christmas? I can't remember. But anyways, it was Thanksgiving. And yeah, that's when we ended up finding out the gender of the baby. And we already announced it. So it is a baby girl. So we're so excited to, you know, have a baby girl in our part of our fam. The girls are like totally taken over. We have a girl dog, and then we're gonna have a girl baby too. And so my husband is laughing because he's like, we're gonna have all girls and it's just gonna be me. But we are having a baby girl. And so kind of how we did that, we got married in Omaha, so we were able to kind of use a lot of the same things. So we used the bakery that made our wedding cake. They made us like a really small gender reveal cake, and we went to the place that we got ready at, the hotel we got ready at, and took a lot of pictures at. Before our wedding, we went there to kind of do an intimate gender reveal with the cake, and we did like the wedding or the wine glass thing, which is just so special because, you know, just like a lot of like intimate things from our end. So yeah, that was kind of like the ins and outs of the first trimester. Just kind of touch on a little things that helped me along the way. You know, for the nausea, I tried so many things, you guys. Like Preggy Pops, the eating snacks in the morning and during the day. I tried the candied ginger, I tried the tea ginger. Really, nothing helped. I did not try the acupuncture, which I wish I would have, but at that point, you guys, I was so sick. I lost almost 10 pounds during my first trimester. Like, I was really sick. Fun times. But I had lost so much weight, and so I talked to my doctor, and And for me, I just really like to start with the least invasive thing as possible before I head to more invasive things. And for this instance, least invasive was like more of a holistic route of like foods and things like that before I tried medications, but it just wasn't really helping. So I talked to my doctor and she prescribed me Zofran for like acute instances, and then had recommended B6 and Usinum for like nighttime, so it would kind of help with 24 hours. And so I had the Zofran for a bit, and before I did the B6, just because I really didn't want to get on medication, but I eventually tried B6 and Usinum, and that ended up helping me a lot. Like, especially during first trimester, when I wasn't in the rhythm of taking it every night, I could tell when I did not take it. Like, I was sick that day. Like, I was super sick. But then when I did take it, I felt pretty much fine, which is super great. And then, you know, the Zofran was there to kind of help when I was like feeling really, really bad, because it would kick in for me in about 30 minutes, and then I would feel pretty much fine for like at least a couple of hours, which really, really helped me for like emergencies, or like, you know, when I wanted to go out with friends, or, you know, Thanksgiving, I wanted to enjoy dinner, which is crazy to think about. But those were two things that really helped me. Another thing too is I was taking prenatals, and I was taking this brand. I think I'm gonna pronounce it wrong. It's Parallel, their first trimester pack. And so just a little bit about their brand. They are the only OBGYN bounded prenatal vitamin, which is super nice, just because I feel super confident in them. And they are specific for each stage of pregnancy. So first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, and they even have a postpartum one as well. But for the first trimester, they have 2 core prenatals, 2 omega, DHA, and EPAs, additional folate, which is super important during first trimester, and then B6 and ginger anti-nausea blend. These were super, super great. And I can kind of show you what the pack looks like. So you kind of open it up like this, and they give you 30, and you can subscribe to have it sent to your place every day. And then it comes in just a little pack like this. These are all of the pills in the back. And I felt really, I've done so much research on prenatals, and I felt really, really confident about this brand. But then first trimester hit, and I was so sick, and first off, prenatals smell really bad, and there's so many pills in here. Like, look at how many pills there are. There's no way I was taking all these pills. So, 2 things. I ended up getting gummy prenatals. You know, I just had to swallow my pride and get gummy prenatals because I needed the folate, and nothing else was helping. But the other thing was that this brand, they actually have a powdered prenatal that you can order, and I had literally no idea about it. But if I would have known about it, I probably would have ordered that, just because you can put that in smoothies or water and just chug it. I have no idea if it tastes good or not, but it would have been better than the pills for sure, and it's the same brand, so I really like that. So yeah, I was taking these a bunch, or I was trying to take these a bunch, and then I ended up just taking some gummy that we ended up getting that my OBGYN recommended. And then the other thing that was helping me with nutrition was this little bar. It's called Tend. And the reason why I really like it is because they use 25 plus whole food nutrients plus omega-3 and DHA. And so it's really nice, just because, again, I wasn't eating the best during my first trimester. Like, I could not eat anything. So just having, like, especially like how small it is, like, this is easy to eat. Like, this is very easy to eat, especially compared to like all of those pills. So this is super nice, just because you get so nervous about taking prenatals, or not getting the right nutrients, not getting the right nutrients. So this is super nice to have, and they have really good organic ingredients, and real whole foods. So I recommend this. They have 4 different flavors, also super good. But yeah, these are really the 2 things that I really use to kind of help supplement my nutrition. but I just had to make it through first trimester and just kind of get through that really hard patch, which, you know, going throughout pregnancy, I really thought I was gonna be one of those girls that didn't get sick, and then I ended up getting sick. So if you're in the thick of it now, you know, just know it gets way better, and you know, you'll figure out what works for you at the end of the day. But those are really all the things that worked really well for me during my first trimester. So I hope this really helps you guys, and you know, if you can relate, you know, I really hope that you guys can. If you guys want to reach out anytime, I'm available via DM or message anytime. And yeah, just kind of also to end the thing, the best way to support my YouTube video is just to like and subscribe for my YouTube channel, just so I can grow a little bit more and, you know, make all this content for you guys. So I really appreciate you guys sticking around and watching this long and hearing about my first trimester. Yeah, hope you guys have a good day.